It's a lot of pressure. I've heard people struggle.
Yeah.
And they're not going after what they want.
Right.
Because a family member is like, you shouldn't do that. Or,
Yeah.
you know, this.
Exactly. Exactly.
This is Las Vegas Real Estate Now with local real estate expert Harvey Blankfeld.
One thing that was popping up as we were talking in that first segment about just the word of real estate as a commodity, you know, and the commoditization of real estate. I think that my experience, you know, in 21 years of watching people make decisions in housing, rental properties, wealth development strategies, where I'm going to live, where I want to go next, why do I want to live there, close to kids, what am I willing to deal with and not deal with? It changes. It changes all the time.
Yeah.
And I think one of the biggest things that gets messed up in the whole process is two things. One, commoditizing the real estate and thinking it's all about ROI all the time.
Yep.
And I was having a back and forth conversation with somebody this morning that was just like, I like where I live, but you know, I don't know if I'm ever going to get all the money back that I'm putting in this place, and I don't know about these renovations and that renovations, and really struggling to make the decisions of how I want to live my life, paralyzed by, am I going to get the money back as a good ROI?
Right.
And I think that happens a lot in real estate. And what came up for me as we were talking about this is just, I don't think people talk about it enough. It's this guilt and shame that shows up in the real estate decision-making process of everybody's opinion. We were talking about Uncle Fred.
Uncle Fred.
You know, where's this guilt and shame coming from of investing in the way I want to live on a daily basis and the standard that I have to get a good ROI on renovations? I mean, you know, as real estate professionals, we want to try to help people make balanced decisions in leveraging their assets and their wealth and things like that. But if, you know, you got to separate.
If fixing up the kitchen is going to make you happy, fix up the kitchen. Do it. Make yourself happy. You know what I see? You know, we see on these TV shows all the time. They're getting ready to sell the house, and they dump $175,000 to redo the kitchen and the bathroom, and then they sell it. They didn't get even a week to live in this beautiful home that they just created. You know, there's nothing wrong with being happy. There's nothing wrong with feeling comfort, sanctuary. There's nothing wrong with that.
Well, I think too many people right now, and to kind of, you know, the social media plays a lot into that. You know, they're on there, they're seeing all these things that people do, and at the end of the day, it's like you said, there's nothing wrong with being happy, and they think the opinions of all these other people are, you know, I have to please them to be happy.
Yeah.
And then realistically, all they have to do is do what they want to do, and they will be happy. And you know, when back to your ROI, I mean, there's a lot of properties that, you know, we see bought and sold, and there's no ROI. It's a place to live.
Right.
And then you get the investors who buy it, and, you know, yeah, they're worried about ROI, but that's their business.
Right.
So, I mean, if it's your property and you're living there and it's going to be an investment down the road or whatever the situation is, I agree with you, Ari. Make yourself happy.
Yeah.
You know, make it to where you can live in that home the way you want to.
I remember when prices were going down in the late 2000s, and people were saying, well, gee, should I, what do I do? I said, the value of your home right now doesn't matter unless you're going to sell it.
Right.
And unless you have to sell it.
Right.
And if you don't have to sell it, who cares? I mean, wait, ride it out. And Matt tells that great story about when he bought an investment property and ended up carrying it for a while until he got what he needed out of it. But when you're living in your own home, you know, and there's not many people more analytical than us. I mean, Matt may be the most analytical guy I know, and I'm fairly analytical myself. But I've seen it. I know you've seen it too. We take a guy who's all about numbers and and he walks into a house, and all of a sudden his eyes light up, and it's like, oh, this is home. You know, it's like an emotion. It's like, this is where I want to live. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Yeah, human beings, I learned this from one of my mentors, human beings make decisions emotionally and then justify them logically. All the justification of ROI on, well, if I renovate the kitchen or, you know, am I going to overinvest in this house right now? And that's the misconception. It's like if you're moving into a house and you make it your own and you invest some money to make it your own, if you can afford the upgrades and you're comfortable living there.
Right.
You're developing wealth over time in general just by paying down equity and whatever happens in the market. But 90% of the impact on whether or not that's going to be worth the money is where the market is when you actually decide to do something with the property.
Right.
Not what you do right now.
Indeed. Well said. I mean, look, look, we all would like to say that everything we invest, we know we're going to get a good return on it, but that's not always the case. But here's the thing. I remember before I was in real estate, I lived back in Baltimore, and we had to sell our house, and I remember the agent telling me, you know, because we were going to sell at a loss. We knew we were going to have to sell at a loss because we needed to sell. We moved into another house. And he said, listen, how much does it cost you to live here for the last 6 years? And we did the math, and it cost like, I don't know, $14,000. I said, so you spent $1,500 a year to live here. Is that worth it? I mean, he boiled it down to what the actual negative effect on their cost was.
Right.
Which, no one ever wants to say, well, I'm losing money over 7 years or 6 years, whatever. But was it not worth it to do that? Yes, and that certainly was. For us, we were able to move into a bigger house. We were starting to have a family, thinking about having a family. It was just before we moved out here. So it works, So yes, do we as agents want to help protect our clients and look out for them financially? Absolutely, we do. But we also know that it's just as important to be happy, to have that. I say sanctuary. I like, that's my word.
If you're going to buy a house, you want to enjoy it.
Right.
Right. It's not just a place to sleep and eat. It's your place. It's your sanctuary. It's where you go. It's all of those things. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, tell all the talking heads around you to shut up. This is what I want right now, and this
Yep.
is what's important to me in my life.
How many times?
Because it's a lot of pressure. I've heard people struggle,
Yeah.
and they're not going after what they want,
Right.
Because a family member is like, you shouldn't do that, or this.
Exactly. Exactly. And we're not disparaging Uncle Fred, but Uncle Fred, you don't know anything about our market. I'm sorry. You don't know what's happening here. You live in New York. You live in Massachusetts. You don't know what's happening here.
Right.
Stop telling them what they should or shouldn't do. It's not helpful. And honestly, a lot of times I've seen them come back and say, "Gee, I wish I never listened to him." And then they see the market's doing what we thought it might do, and things are happening in a positive way. But the truth is that owning a home. One of the best things about owning a home is you can make it anything you want, just about
It's yours.
within reason. Do what you want.
Yeah, and the key thing that we're actually talking about right now is just being super clear and confident personally on what you actually want
Yeah.
with regards to developing wealth or real estate ownership. Some people, absolutely, it's about ROI.
Yeah.
And I don't care where I live. I'm going to buy, renovate, improve, sell. Buy, renovate, improve, sell. And it's literally a strategy. It's like,
Yeah.
I love it. I love doing it. I move
Yeah.
into a house, I fix it up, I sell it a few years later, I move again. Like, that's
Yeah.
fine. There's nothing wrong with it. That's
Absolutely.
clear. And there's confidence in it.
Yep.
They're not asking Uncle Fred for his opinion.
No, they
they're
know
smart.
exactly what they're
They're right.
doing,
They
and
know
they're
what they're
making
doing.
decisions,
Yep.
and they're managing risk along the way,
Yep.
and they got a place to live.